The Silent Suffering, Christians Under Siege in China. In the vast expanse of China, beneath the veneer of economic prosperity and technological advancement, a quiet yet profound tragedy unfolds. Christians, particularly those who adhere to house churches, unregistered congregations that refuse to bow to state-sanctioned religious practices, are enduring relentless persecution. This isn't just a political issue, it's a human rights crisis that strips away dignity, faith, and hope. The rise of state-sanctioned religious control. Under the leadership of President Xi Jinping, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has intensified its campaign to sinicize religion. This policy mandates that all religious practices align with Chinese culture and socialism, effectively eradicating any influence deemed foreign or subversive. Christianity, with its roots in the West, stands at the forefront of this ideological battle. Registered churches, known as the Three Self-Patriotic Movement, are not exempt. They too face stringent controls. Pastors are compelled to preach government-approved sermons, religious texts are altered to reflect socialist values, and even the imagery of Jesus has been replaced with portraits of President Xi in some instances. The unseen martyrs, house church persecution. The real suffering, however, occurs within the walls of house churches.
He joins us now with more. Jeff, this new law took effect May 1st. Tell us more. How does it make life worse for missionaries and Christians already oppressed by the Chinese Communist Party?
Yeah, Gary, it's a great question because, on the surface, it does make life tougher for those that are in the country and trying to spread the faith. So that's the bad news. It's a law that's in a long list of laws that have come under Xi's rule. And here's the bottom line. None of it really makes a difference. So you can make life tougher for the missionaries, but that's not the beating heart of the Chinese church. No matter what he does, the church grows and is triumphant. It's an incredible story.
Well, then, how are Christians in China responding to this? Are missionary organizations calling their missionaries home?
I haven't heard that yet. There are some, but in general, look, most of them operate under the radar. I won't give a lot of detail on that, but the communists all know, the Marxists all know what's going on. So for the most part, those who remain hidden will stay probably until they're caught and thrown out. I think that's the quick answer.
Well, I mean, it's just an ongoing pressure that's continuing here from the CCP. And I understand in Henan province, authorities are now offering rewards to people who report Christians gathering in unregistered house churches. They've always encouraged neighbors to snitch on underground churches and notify police when they witness Christians evangelizing on the street. But this seems a bit different now. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, well, that is the case. And it definitely is an increase in pressure, an increase in paranoia. And it's part of how communism honestly destroys cultures. This goes back to the Soviet Union. And, when you think about a whole populace that's spying on each other and it creates paranoia, et cetera. Look, in the end, the church grows best when it's growing in the.
In 2024 alone, over 18 million Chinese citizens were coerced into publicly denouncing religious groups labeled as illegal cults in a campaign known as Say No to Xiejiao. The government's tactics are both brutal and systematic. In November 2024, multiple house churches in Nanjing were raided simultaneously. Over 50 officers, including national security agents and religious affairs bureau officials, stormed a service, handcuffing the pastor and several congregants without explanation. They were released hours later, but the threat of severe punishment loomed over them. In another harrowing incident, on October 30, 2024, police forcibly entered the home of a Christian family in Linfen while they were praying. The officers, lacking proper identification and a search warrant, recorded the family's personal information and instilled deep fear in their children. 2 church ministers from Linfen Holy Covenant Church have been detained for over 800 days without trial, a stark violation of China's own legal standards. Surveillance, the eyes that never blink. The Chinese government's surveillance apparatus has evolved into an omnipresent force, particularly targeting religious activities. In 2024, over 40,000 new surveillance cameras were installed in churches, temples, and religious schools to monitor worshippers. These cameras don't just record, they analyze facial features, track movements, and even predict behaviors. Worshippers are now required to pre-register their attendance through government-controlled apps, effectively turning faith into a data point. Children under the age of 18 are banned from attending services, and those who attempt to practice their faith face severe repercussions. Some minors have been coerced into renouncing their beliefs, signing pledges under duress. The human cost: lives shattered. Behind every statistic is a human story. Zhang Zhan, a Christian journalist, was arrested in May 2020 for reporting on COVID-19 in Wuhan. After serving a 4-year sentence, she was rearrested in November 2024 for assisting a fellow Christian. She remains incarcerated, a symbol of the state's intolerance for religious expression. The Golden Lampstand Church in Shaanxi Province, once one of China's largest Protestant evangelical churches, was demolished in January 2018 using heavy machinery and dynamite. The church had been built at a cost of 17 million yuan, but its crime was its size and influence. In August 2021, 9 leaders and members of the church were arrested in a public security operation, their fates unknown. A call to conscience. The persecution of Christians in China is not just a distant tragedy, it's a global concern. As believers, we are called to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters who suffer for their faith. This isn't merely about politics, it's about human dignity, freedom of belief, and the right to worship without fear. We must raise our voices, not just in protest, but in prayer. We must advocate for those who have no voice, support those who are oppressed, and remember those who are forgotten. The plight of Christians in China is a test of our collective conscience. Will we turn away, or will we stand with them in their darkest hour?